Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side. And today, actually, Luke on the Democratic side of this bipartisan YouTube channel is not around because he's extremely busy. But since we haven't uploaded in a while and election day is nearing really quickly, I wanted to do a video. So we're going to do a solo video today. And since only the Republican side is here of this on this video, I didn't want to do a lot of in-depth deep dive analysis, opinionated analysis, since this is a bipartisan YouTube channel. So I wanted to do a more objective video today. Today we have the Emerson College polls, and I'm going to map them out so that everyone can visualize what Emerson College has been doing. They are one of the only pollsters that have been doing polls across the nation in almost all of the competitive states. We've seen Trafalgar do it, but Trafalgar does have a bit of right-leaning bias. And Emerson, last cycle, they were leaning to the left, but now in this cycle, they seem to be on par with Trafalgar. So they're an extremely interesting data point to visualize. And Luke has said in the past in some videos that Emerson does do polling based off of 2020 margins. So they make sure to poll people for what they voted for in 2020 and then balance out any biases there. So they're an extremely interesting pollster. And I think looking at all their data across the US is good for looking at the fate of the Senate. And so let's start. We do have two toss-ups that I have here that aren't labeled Emerson polls. There are safe red and safe blue seats here where Emerson College has not bothered to poll because the seats are too safe and it doesn't matter. And then there's two states that we'll get to. Oregon I'll get to in a bit because they did do some polling there. But Florida is going to be a traditional swing state, one that has been moving to the right. And Emerson has not been doing a polling there. They have not done a poll in Florida the entire cycle. And it's interesting because Trafalgar hasn't released a poll out of Florida either. Maybe they just think the race is too safe for Rubio there. So I will be putting this into safe far just because they haven't done any polling there. The consensus in the political community is that Florida is too far to the right for Democrats to catch the cycle. Oregon, I'll get to in a bit, as I said. So let's go ahead and scroll through their Twitter and start from the most recent, from the farthest back poll that we can go. That isn't a duplicate poll. So that's going to be Arizona. So on September 9th, which was a little more than a month ago, they did their Arizona Senate poll here, and they had Mark Kelly up 2 points over Blake Masters, which is going to be a lead margin. And this race has closened up in recent days, recent weeks and days, because Blake Masters probably won that debate that they had, according to most people in the betting markets. Of course, Blake Masters won that debate, but we have yet to see polls out of Arizona since that debate, other than some not so credible ones. So I really hope to see Emerson College do another poll in Arizona soon, see if that margin has tightened or if that abortion law, for example, in Arizona has made that margin increase for Kelly. So there we go. Lean Democrat on Arizona. And then next, we're going to move to Nevada. So they moved to Nevada a little under a month ago. They did a poll in Nevada where they had Adam Laxalt up by only 1 point over Catherine Cortez Masto. And honestly, Nevada has been probably the most right-leaning out of the big four, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. And so I think this is consistent with all their other polls. I think this is probably the right move. But I really think Laxalt has picked up the pace in the past month. So again, I hope Emerson does another poll here pretty closely up until the election here. And I want to see what the margin here in Laxalt against Masto is, especially as there was 11% undecided in this poll. So there we go. Nevada is done. And then after we move past the New Mexico gubernatorial poll, we move to the Ohio Senate poll, where they have J.D. Vance only up by a lean margin. They only have him up by 4 points. And as they have honestly been in line with Trafalgar, this is a little concerning for Vance. In the past, we've seen really horrible polling errors, though, in the state of Ohio. So I do think that J.D. Vance is going to outperform any poll that's done here. If I'm going to be honest, even Trafalgar underestimated Vance in 2020, or not Vance, Trump, the Republicans in 2020. So I think this isn't too concerning, but it is of slight concern for Vance, especially as Ryan has been running a decent campaign in the state. And then as we move past the gubernatorial poll in Ohio, we will move to New Hampshire, where Maggie Hassan has a safe margin lead over Don Bolduc. This is an 11-point lead, and I believe today Tulsi Gabbard said she would try to campaign for Don Bolduc over in New Hampshire. I'm not too sure about that story, but I did see it somewhere, and that's really interesting. I'm not sure if Bolduc can really pull this one close. I think Hassan is probably likely to win this by a likely margin, but a safe margin here by Emerson, putting Hassan over 50% is really good news for the Democrats, who might have been worried earlier this year about New Hampshire. So there we go on New Hampshire. Safe D. As we move past some of these other polls, we're going to move to Wisconsin here, where Ron Johnson is leading as much as J.D. Vance over in Ohio. And I'm not saying that Johnson's going to win by 4 points. He might win by more. He might win by less. But polls in Wisconsin have also historically underestimated Republicans in every way, shape, or form, and especially Ron Johnson, who absolutely crushed all expectations in 2016, pulling off that win. I think this proves to be a really good sign for him in the state of Wisconsin. Then we go to North Carolina, where Ted Budd has a 3-point lead over Cherry Beasley. And this is really fascinating how Wisconsin is actually going to be to the right of North Carolina here in the Emerson College polls. The methodology probably is not identical, but with Ted Budd here winning by 3 points, I think that is a really solid margin in terms of a good prediction. I think Ted Budd is likely to win by about 3 with everything going on, and Cherry Beasley probably being a stronger opponent than, let's say, Cunningham in 2020, who lost to Tom Tillis, right? So there we go. We have Ted Budd winning by 3 points in North Carolina. Next, we'll move past the Kansas polls that don't feature a Senate race, and we're going to go to Colorado's Senate. And I think this one is also extremely interesting. We have Bennett barely sliding into the safety column. I agree with this. I think that Democrats have historically been underestimated in the polls in Colorado, and they've been underestimated in Georgia. I think the states where they have been even with the polls or underestimated are because the states are shifting drastically to the left and the pollsters don't sample correctly. I think if anything, Colorado is going to move even further to the left with all these trends in the suburbs around Denver. And I think that Michael Bennett is likely to win by over 10 points. So I agree with this poll by Emerson College here in Colorado. Next, we're going to move past some of these national polls in their Twitter feed. We'll move past Maine and Texas polls, and we're going to go all the way to Illinois, which, you know, you don't really expect Illinois to have a poll. And I don't really know why they chose to use their resources here in Illinois. I guess someone gave them funding from Chicago, so they decided to do it. Either way, though, Duckworth is at 50% and winning by a massive margin over Salvi. I don't really know how to pronounce that name, but there we go. Duckworth is winning by around 19 points. Exactly 19 points. I was going to say around 20, but there we go. Moving to the east, we go to Pennsylvania here, where Fetterman I had an extremely interesting article this morning about Fetterman in NBC about his issues comprehending words, etc., after a stroke, and it caused the betting odds to start to lean almost to a 50-50 this morning. So Dr. Oz is definitely catching up in the Pennsylvania Senate race. This one is now a lean margin as of a week ago. So this could narrow up even further in a reality now. This is in contrast to the gubernatorial poll, of course. Now we move to here, the Missouri Senate race, where Eric Schmidt has over a 10-point lead over the Democrat challenger, Bush Valentine. And he's almost hitting 50%. I don't know why they decided to pull Missouri as well. I think Missouri is a lost cause for the Democrat Party in even their best case scenario, as we did do a video on that. So there we go. Safe Missouri, not exactly a surprise at all. And now we go to Oregon, where this is why I wanted to put this as a toss-up. They don't have an Emerson poll, actually, for the Senate level, but they do have a poll for the gubernatorial level where the Republican Christine Drazan is leading. I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out to everyone, that Christine Drazan is leading in the Oregon gubernatorial poll. And even with these, with this three-way race, of course, the Senate is safe Democrat, but it's always important to look out for the gubernatorial poll in such a crazy state where Emerson is the only good pollster in the state, or only reputable pollster, really. Then we have Washington, where Tiffany Smiley has it within 10, just barely to put this into a likely margin for Patty Murray here. She is over 50%, so that's pretty good for her, but potentially things are closening since the primary. Of course, we had that Trafalgar poll that had this within 2 or something crazy like that, and this Emerson poll has it within 10, so maybe there are chances for Tiffany Smiley, but yeah, there we go. Likely margin in Washington. And now we have Iowa, where Chuck Grassley is sneaking ahead, winning by over 10 points. He's an electoral juggernaut. It is Iowa, but Trump won Iowa by 8 in 2020. The national environment is shifting to the right. Grassley is an extremely strong candidate. This one's out of reach for the Democrats. I am sorry. In the gubernatorial race there, Kim Reynolds is winning by even more against a no-name opponent. Then finally, we have Georgia, which they released their Georgia poll yesterday. While they have Kemp up by 5, they have Warnock up by 2. And this is what I want to talk about right now. I'll fill it in right here. Warnock up by 2 by a lead margin. But this is extremely interesting for a number of reasons. Firstly, looking at the gubernatorial poll, Kemp is up by 5 over Stacey Abrams. And while I think Warnock is a better candidate than Abrams, Kemp is a better candidate than Walker, I don't see this much vote splitting in Georgia. A lot of people have pointed this out, that there's likely not to be such a massive vote split in this state. And in 2020, we saw Donald Trump run a few points behind David Perdue in the first round. And even though he ran behind by 2 points, that is not 7 points. You'll see here that Kemp is at 51, but Walker's at 46. And these are likely Republicans or independents that lean right that are still iffy on Walker. And I think at the end of the day, they're likely to vote Republican, and that this race is closer than it looks, especially where Abrams and Warnock are both under 50. Another thing to note is that with these people under 50%, and maybe someone voting for a libertarian candidate or a third-party candidate, it's entirely possible that this race goes to a runoff. And in my opinion, it is probable that it will go to a runoff, that neither candidate will get over 50% as of right now. So the fact that neither of them are breaking 50% on one of the more reputable pollsters of the nation is extremely telling for what we might see in November and how the control of the Senate might come down to a January runoff like it did in 2021. So here we go with the Emerson College polling. We have 50 for the Democrats, 50 for the Republicans, with the margins laid out as follows. That was a lot of Emerson polls. Hope you enjoyed this video, though. Make sure to like this video down below if you haven't already. Subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you wouldn't mind to help us with the YouTube algorithm. And since Luke isn't here, I'll tell you all to share this video with all your friends. So anyways, thanks for watching. See ya.